This is TLFM Online Radio Station Chicago. Dimensión Latina FM Radio TV. Baja nuestra aplicación a través de tu iPhone o Android. Búscanos como Dímela FM. Búscanos en TuneIn Radio como Dimensión Latina FM y visita nuestra página web dimelafm.com.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Wings of Love. Today we have an interview with one of our community organizers, an educator, public policy advocate, and a lot of working experience in education, criminal justice reform, affordable housing, community development, and sustainability. So we want to welcome Jessie Fuentes to Wings of Love. Welcome to the program, and thank you for joining us today. I know that you have a heavy-duty campaign going right now in the neighborhood. We want to see you succeed and, let everybody know what you're working on. We know that you're a child of Humboldt Park and a seasoned organizer in your area, so you know exactly what the experience is. You know how to overcome poverty. You know what the violence is all about. You know what the neighborhood needs more than anything. You also understand generational trauma coupled with different things that you've experienced. So this comes to say that if anything, you know at what you're going for and you know what you're in for. So
Absolutely.
Tell us what you're working on right now. Like, what are the projects that you have in mind? And if elected, what would happen?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, Elsa, thank you for having me on this show. It's an absolute privilege. We're tuning in right from the campaign office, the heart of the work.
Yes.
We are a grassroots movement. We are a community campaign. I grew up in the community where I understand firsthand what it means to be a child of an incarcerated parent, what it means to be a child of drug addiction, what it means to be involved in the justice system. And I've been very open about my lived experience. And the reason that we're so excited about the opportunity of becoming the 26th Ward Alderperson is because we are going to bring the lived political and professional experience to the table. When we are thinking about gentrification and displacement in our community, we have to be able to look at housing like a table with four legs. And some of the things that I am proposing if I am elected into office is twofold. We have to be able to champion, advocate, and make sure we pass the Bring Home Chicago ordinance that talks about a tax transfer to produce the revenue required to house our homeless population. We have watched tent encampments across our communities grow, and often we have individuals who just sweep these tent encampments, and we're not seeking to resolve the root cause of the problem. We're just moving the problem. That's not going to happen under my administration. We're going to solve for that problem. We're going to make sure that we're opening up mental health clinics, that we're providing individuals with wraparound case management, and that we're housing them and holding agencies accountable to that. And I'm proud to make sure that we have a plan. The other thing is, when we're talking about displacement, we have to consider the families that are being displaced today because of the property tax increases, right? We've been walking this community for over 5 months, and we have over 24 families that are putting up their houses for sale because they can't keep up with their property tax increases. It feels like a second mortgage. What is required of the alderperson of the 26th Ward is to be someone that can work cross-governmental sectors, like with state legislators and Cook County commissioners, and make sure that we are passing a piece of legislation that talks about tax incentives for long-term residents, freezing tax increases maybe after 15 years. I have a legislative plan, right? We're going to continue to bring in affordable housing into our community, and we're going to build affordable home ownership opportunities on the empty lots that are in the 26th Ward that belong to the city, because our people too deserve to build generational wealth.
Right.
And then we got to talk about public safety, right?
For sure. I mean, with the violence and the car thefts and now we're taking catalytic converters, and now
Yep.
people are breaking into cars and just taking them. I mean, how much more can the people in the community withstand?
Absolutely. But there is a direct correlation between the disinvestment in our communities, the disinvestment in our schools, the disinvestment in youth programming, the impact of the pandemic, and the increase of violence in our community, right? We can see the direct correlation. And we also got to take into account that after the George Floyd murder, we have had CPD officers from all communities across the city of Chicago dispatched out of our community and assigned to downtown. Well, under my administration, we want to make sure that we're grappling with public safety on many different fronts. First and foremost, we need well-funded schools in our community. Since the pandemic, there have been students missing from our school caseloads, and we have not invested at all to try to re-engage these young people. There was a carjacking in our community about 2 weeks ago, and the two young men that were caught were 14 and 15 years old.
Exactly.
These
They're
are young
kids. Yes.
They're young people. They're young people, and we also have to take into account that this is a direct symptom of poverty. And so in my administration, we're going to be making sure that we're fighting and we're championing for fully funded schools, that we're opening up mental health clinics. We're going to champion the ordinance of treatment, not trauma, because we got to make sure that we are dealing with mental health crisis in our community. Calling 911 doesn't resolve for that, right? We need alternative processes that ensure that we can have experts and professionals deal with the mental health concerns in our communities so the police can focus on what they should, and that is resolving crime in our community. We have the most police per state capita with the lowest clearance rate, and that is because we have them attending to all sorts of things in our community. We need to invest in making sure that we have alternative processes to emergency calls that are not crime calls, so that when 911 is dialed, it is solely to resolve crime in our community, right? And to report crime that is happening. And we also got to make sure that we are investing in small businesses and increasing a job market in our community. We need workforce here. We need to ensure that we are getting families employed, that we are paying them livable wages, so that we can lower the amount of robberies and carjackings, so that they are not seeking to do those things in order to provide and survive for themselves. And I'm committed to making sure that we are dealing with the root causes of violence in the 26th ward.
Yeah. How do you feel about the report that came out today where they said that there's like 50 schools in Chicago where the kids can't even read? They can't do math. They can't do the basics that are going to sustain them in their life. You know what I mean? What do you do when you can't do basic math? What do you do when you can't do basic reading? I mean, so I totally understand where you're pushing the education. And as an educator, how do you feel as an educator, which is one of the things that you've been working on, education?
Yeah. You know, I spent 6 years in the Chicago public school system, and it's hard. It's hard to work within a system in which you're not getting the adequate funding to provide the resources that young people need. We have young people in, low-income communities that are performing well below their grade levels. And that is because we have classrooms that are overpopulated. We have counseling caseloads that are way too large. We have part-time social workers for a school that has 700 or more children. I mean, what we are doing is criminal.
It is.
We should be investing in our young people, not disinvesting in them. And we need to see a return in the taxes that we are charging. We should see it first and foremost in our school system. And so, for me, it is extremely... Look, the data that was released this morning is evident in the antiquated funding formula that we have been accepting for decades now.
Right.
And the reality is that unless we can provide quality education in our public schools, we're not going to increase the literacy rate. That means we're going to have less individuals go into a professional workforce, meaning we're going to continue to exist within the same cycle that we have existed in. I have 11 elementary schools and 3 high schools in the 26th ward. I will not accept that we continue to provide a poor educational system for our young people. There is no reason why we don't have a culturally sound and competent curriculum for young people to engage in. There is no reason why we don't have full-time social workers and small counselor caseloads so that we can provide the wraparound resources needed socially and emotionally, and that we can put forward a education that is going to inspire young people to want to come to school.
Exactly. How do you keep them in school is the question, right? How do we keep them in school?
But we have to start investing in the programs to keep them engaged. You know, the first thing that we do to a school that gets a budget cut is to cut all of the programs that our young people love. The arts programs, the music programs, the programs that teach them about themselves and allow them to express themselves and find a sense of belonging. That's extremely important for a human being. I mean, Elsa, you love what you do.
Absolutely.
In all facets of your life, right? And I love what I do because we have found a sense of purpose.
Exactly.
If we are not engaging young people and finding a sense of purpose, we are never going to be able to engage them in becoming agents of change in their own community. And so we have a moral obligation, right? To create educational institutions that are inspiring, that wake up a sense of fire in you. But in order to do that, young people need to sit in classrooms and feel like they're learning about themselves, learning about the world around them, but more importantly, learning about their role in a greater society. And unfortunately, that is where we have failed young people in our educational system. And we see that because we lose young people from our schools every day.
Right. And one of the things is that we want to bring that awareness. Can we afford to lose all these kids every day? I mean, this type of, youth situation that we have, I mean, it is going to transcend for decades to come. What is our world gonna look like in a world of kids that can't do basic stuff? I mean, they might be wonderful at social media and they all want to be like, it seems like the trend now is all the kids want to be influencers. What are they influencing?
Right. And that is just it, right? I think that there is a space for people to be in. I think that, there is a space in which we can influence and impact people. And there's a role for social media, but it's about what are we inspired to have an influence on. And I think that is exactly why it's extremely important to socially engage young people and ensure that they are participating in the well-being and the growth of their community. But in order to do that, we have to invest in them, right? And for me, I worked really hard in the last 3 years to build a violence prevention and intervention program in our community that has street intervention, prevention, victim specialists, and case management, because there is a population of young people that have already engaged in risky behavior, have already become involved in street life. But that doesn't mean that we discard them. That does not mean that we do not attempt to be a part of their lives. That does not mean we do not provide them the resources that they deserve. They're not less than worthy of us because they have made poor choices, right? And that's why I'm so passionate about policy and public safety, because look, I was 15, 16 years old, Elsa, and I didn't make great decisions, right? Mm-hmm. I made several poor choices as a young person, but I'm the living example that when we invest in our young people and we provide them the guidance and the support, and the love that they deserve, like the love that they deserve, we could get them right back on track, right? I've been an organizer and activist for more than 16 years now because someone gave me an opportunity to believe in myself. Right. And that's what our young people need, but they need more spaces to be in. When I was young, we had boxing classes in the field house, swimming classes, after school programs, wraparound summer camps. We need to reinvest in those programs so that our
bring them back.
Bring them back. Absolutely.
And bring them back. It sounds like they used the pandemic as an excuse to eliminate and cut all types of programs. But we have to say, hey, this is, we're out of that. Let's bring it all back. We cannot continue to live like this. And these kids that are getting stuff delivered to the house, which is now in this day and age, is these kids are ordering their drugs and everything, and it gets delivered to the house.
Mhm.
How many parents are aware that their kids are receiving packages from Amazon and it's drugs inside there?
Yeah. And those are all symptoms of of how our young people have learned how to cope in a very difficult situation, right? And the pandemic has created and has developed social behaviors among our young people that we have to be able to deconstruct. But the only way that we do that is by allowing them to exist in a space in which they can fully be themselves with no judgment, and allow people who care enough about youth development and social emotional learning and restorative justice to pour into them, right? Because we have so many people, and not just young people, I mean, people in general across our community who have learned how to cope through the difficulties through drug abuse and alcoholism, right? I mean, addiction is very real. I mean, it was very real in my family. It's very real in our community, but it's also a symptom of a mental health crisis that we must grapple with. Now, our community is grappling with historical and generational trauma, and unless we are giving access to our people to mental health services that again are rooted in culturally competent and linguistically sound services, we're never going to undo that cycle of self-abuse.
And that's the thing. It's like, how do we break out of these patterns of behavior? How do we break these chains that have been passed on generation after generation?
Yeah. A part of it is making sure that we build a community that can provide those supports, right? Because it's not enough to have the pick yourself up by the bootstraps mentality.
Right.
Did I have a lot of resilience? Yes. Was I able to make it out of some very tough interpersonal and social dynamics as a young person? Yes. But I also had a community that supported me in that process, right? I was never really doing it alone. I think I learned how to have social emotional strength and tenacity, but I did that because I knew that there was a community supporting me. And we have to get back to, look, my grandmother always used to tell me, si falta respeto, allá abajo, que te regañan. Because that family down the street also assumed responsibility for my development and my growth. It was a community effort, right?
And that's what it is. It's like our youth are part of the everybody watch out for our kids. And that's exactly what your grandma told you back in the day. And, don't get upset if they come and snitch on you. You know what I mean? Because if you're doing something, then they come and they tell me it's because they were looking out for your better interests. But that also is going to come with leadership. And that's one of the things that, the people in the community need to see. Are you looking to see what is behind these people that are running for these positions? Because leadership is going to make the night and day difference of who is the leader in your community.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Look, in this 26 ward race, I'm born and raised in this community. I understand the ins and outs. I understand the social barriers because I too lived it, right? I have the lived experience. I know what it is to be on one side of that social dynamic and be on the other side as an activist, as a policy advocate, and as an educator. And I think that bringing both of those experiences, having my personal lived experience and having my professional experience, make me the most equipped to be able to take on the very serious issues that are facing the 26th ward. And that is our concern around public safety, our concern around sustainability of families that are being displaced because of the increase of property taxes and the development of multi-million-dollar homes in our community. That is grappling with homelessness here in our community and making sure that we have an education system that we can all be proud of. There are so many families that send their children to schools outside of our district because they do not trust our schools to educate their children. We can no longer accept that reality. If we want a thriving and safe 26th ward, all those things need a leader who knows how to legislate, who knows how to organize, who knows how to advocate, but more importantly, has the will to fight. And I believe
Exactly.
that I'm the only candidate that brings all of those characteristics to the table.
And that's why I always suggest, make sure you're making an informed choice. Make sure that you're looking at the different people that are running for these positions, because once you cast that vote, you're there for a number, for a good long time. And that's what your life is going to look like for that number of years once you put someone in that position. So a lot of times you hear people, yeah, but they don't do anything. Well, how was this vote done?
Yeah.
Who were the people that backed this person up, and this is what you brought in, so
Yeah.
it's so important that we have this unity, and we can't emphasize it enough. Our people really need to stand united right now.
Absolutely. And, I think that we have to be able to vote for the candidate that can build coalitions, right? If you look, first and foremost, I'm the candidate that has brought in the most endorsements. I am also the candidate that has brought in the most diverse endorsements.
And I think we have to be diverse. We cannot be with racial biases and those kinds of things. I mean, that is like so out of date,
Yeah. And, I have brought in endorsements like United Working Families and Chicago Federation of Labor. They're not necessarily on the same political spectrum. Brought in endorsements like, Congresswoman Delia Ramirez, and have been endorsed by the incumbent Roberto Maldonado. But it speaks to my ability to bring people to the table to fight for a common goal. We must begin building coalitions so that we can move community in the right direction.
Right.
Because that is what matters. We can no longer continue to discard or isolate folks because we may not 100% ideologically align, but we must be able to sit and be at a table and be willing to struggle with one another for the betterment of our community. And that is what I bring to the table.
And that's what, is important for the community to hear, because it's giving the community ears here to get a better understanding. These are the things that our community is facing, but who's the person that would most likely handle them? Who's the person that's really interested in making our community a better place? You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And these are the things that people need to think when they go to vote. And the election is right around the corner.
It's 14 days away.
14 days away. So people know by the end of the month, you just have a couple more days here basically to really think it through and really, weigh it out, and then decide, what is it that I want? What is it that, we're doing, to make our community a better place? Because I think that, tell me if I'm wrong, but doesn't it so happen when we're growing up in a certain area that people almost get too used to the fact and too complacent? It's like, well, that's how it is over here. Why do we have to think that way? Yeah, well, that's how it is for us. Why? Isn't that one of the things that you were rebelling against when you were going through whatever you went through?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, in order to begin to transform the mindset that this is our normal, you need a leader who is going to say, it's absolutely not normal.
It's not.
And we're going to change it. Yeah. And we're going to transform that reality.
But isn't this what happens when you're living in dysfunction?
Yeah, I mean, look,
because when all you know is dysfunction, and you don't know any other world but dysfunction, you have no clue what function is.
Yeah, and unfortunately, our families across not just the 26th ward but across the city of Chicago have felt like they have lost trust in people's ability to govern. Right?
Absolutely.
I can't tell you how many households I have knocked on. And I just came from door knocking before coming on the show.
Coming over here.
Yeah, and I just had a family tell me, I don't know if I'm going to vote, because every time I vote, people make promises and those promises are broken. And
right.
I am tired of feeling like that vote matters, right? And what I told this homeowner who, is also extremely distraught from the increase of her property taxes, is what I'm asking of you is to have faith one more time.
Exactly.
Because what I can promise is that you have never elected a candidate like me, one that has grown up here, one that understands the social dynamics of our families and our community, one that has the professional expertise, but more importantly, one that's going to lead with love and care, because this is not a business transaction for me. This is not about lining my own pockets. This is not about deal making for me. This is about the opportunity to lead and represent a community that has quite literally saved my life. And so I just want the opportunity to be able to pay that back. I want the opportunity to be able to do the work that I'm doing right now and do it in city council, because I know that it works, right? I know that we can change the reality of the 26th ward and all of the things that make our families worry, because I have been on the other side, right? And that's hard for families to do, to have trust.
It's very difficult, because you know what? There are many families right here in the community that know that the same things that you faced, their kids are facing right now.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
But when you have a person that is already lived it and knows what it's about, it makes a difference.
It does. It does. And, you know, if elected to the 26th ward, I would be the first Latina woman. I would be the first LGBTQ candidate to ever represent this district. And I think it's extremely important to have someone that, one, can break barriers and make new history, but one that is also going to bring a different type of administration into the 26th ward. One that I believe is truly needed today.
I agree. I couldn't agree more. I mean, I think you need, in the times that we are living, we need some fresh blood. We need some fresh blood. We need the trailblazers, the change makers to come in and, you know, pretty much say, okay, today we're going to be, you know, sweeping out, you know, all this stuff that has been left behind from decades. And we need to make a fresh new beginning, basically.
Absolutely.
A fresh new beginning is what everybody's needing in the district and in the community.
Yeah. And, you know, I tell folks, in electing someone like me, you're telling every young person across the city of Chicago that they are worthy.
Exactly.
Because their poor decisions when they were young, or their poor decisions in an early age, don't define them.
And that's one of the things, is that these kids need to know, you know what, you can rebuild yourself. And there is an opportunity, you know, to make a life after you've made a mistake.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. You know? And, you know, I have opponents who are telling me that I am unqualified for this position for those very reasons. And what I tell them is, well, you just told every young person that had a life like mine that they're not worthy of leading ever.
Right. Like, let's toss all these people that, because they didn't have a functional home, that they'll never be worthy of anything. And that's not even fair, because a lot of us do not come into dysfunction because we wanted to. We were brought into it, right? I don't think any one of us that grew up in dysfunction ever thought, you know what, this is where I want to be. I picked this. I don't think so.
Right. Exactly. No, exactly.
I don't think so. We literally had to do all kinds of work on ourselves to be able to pick up those pieces, put it all back together, and make it work.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I'm running to show that there is a world of possibilities, to tell every young person across the city of Chicago that they are worthy of whatever they dream, and that nothing should stop them, right? And I'm excited for the opportunity to win and be living proof that when you change course, anything is possible.
Right. And that when you're given a chance, you can still make it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that's one of the things that I think is very nice to hear, especially in this day and age where, you know, sometimes we have people that have been around for decades, and the accomplishments are like, what are the accomplishments?
Right.
Like, there's nothing there to, you know, to back it up, but somehow, there have been people that have been able to be in those leadership positions without having done anything for their communities.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's part of the reason why so many people refuse to vote. And we can't emphasize enough how important it is to use that vote and actually have a voice.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, for me, that is what this is about, right? Is to give community voice, to bring them to the table, to allow young people an opportunity to lead. I can't wait to become 26th Ward Alderperson so that young people can begin to be agents of change in their community and be a part of participatory democracy. That is what transforms community. I mean, we've seen it in Brazil with the new administration that was able to win, and they won with so many young people at the forefront, begging for a difference, right? And we can ensure that there is a difference to be made here in the 26th Ward and in the city of Chicago.
Oh, most definitely. So in closing, what would you like to tell our youth? Because I know, anybody that's already 18 years old, encourage them. We need to call out to them. We need to have our youth come out and, not take that attitude, because it is all about attitude. And how they say, change your perception and it changes your whole entire mindset.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, I want every young person to know that, it's never too late to change course. It's never too late to make different decisions. More importantly, it's never too late to ask for help. And there should be no guilt in that. There should be no shame in wanting support. But more importantly, that there's a community that's willing to embrace them. And, I want to be able to develop a governmental administration that's going to ensure that we invest in our young people wholeheartedly and that they can be a part of that process. I know what it feels like to hit absolute rock bottom. I know what it feels like to look around and wonder, what did I do to deserve to live this way?
Exactly.
And not fully understand, right? Like, did I not deserve to be loved? Did I not deserve to have all the resources? But there is a world that's willing to give love and a place that's willing to give resources. We just have to fight enough to seek it. And, I want to make sure that every young person can feel that they can be a part of a transformation and, that anything is possible.
That's absolutely true. And it's all possible. It can be done. And, you can say, well, I'm living proof. I'm living proof that this is possible. And that a lot of these kids that are locked up in juvie right now at the juvenile detention center do not have to go from juvenile to adult, correction center. I mean, there has to be a way that, okay, so you made some mistakes. Let's work it out where you don't have to go from the juvenile detention center to the adult detention center.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And make a life. But anything else you want to say in closing? How can people reach out to you if they want to reach out?
Absolutely. On my website, JESSIE for26ward.com, there's ways to contact me. My campaign office is 1746 North Kimball Avenue. And I'm always accessible and I'm always responsive, because that is what your future alderperson should be. It should be accessible. It should be responsive. And so I welcome anyone to come interrogate me and my platform, because I'm always open to every single conversation that concerns every resident across the 26th Ward.
You heard it now straight from Jessie. So whoever is in our audience and viewing, make sure you take that to heart. If you have questions, go ahead and ask her questions. And anything that you need to be more informed about, go ahead and do it. And it looks like you'll get an answer, you'll get a response. Well, we've been broadcasting live through Radio Dimensión Latina FM, and we are thanking you very much for your collaboration, for your time today, and for giving us this interview. Thank you so much for everything and for sharing everything that you have shared about yourself. And good luck with the work that you're doing in the community. And who knows, because you know what they say, return on investment. And when you invest in our youth and you invest in the community, that is the biggest reward or the biggest return that you can have on what you are investing as a leader. Thank you so much for your time today. We want to say thank you to everybody that's being with us. If you have the application, go ahead and download your application, Radio Dimensión Latina, and you can catch these programs whenever you want. Thank you so much, Jessie. Have a great night.
You too, Elsa.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
ELFM Online, Radio Station Chicago, Dimensión Latina, FM, Radio TV. Baja nuestra aplicación a través de tu iPhone o Android. Búscanos como Dímela FM. Búscanos en TuneIn Radio como Dimensión Latina FM y visita nuestra página web dimelafm.com.